刚才2个人说了，对，你们
好的，
好，你说你的 ID 是哪一个？划掉
那第一个
第一个，好的，稍等。OK，那我们就直接开始，因为每个人的时间不会有很多，所以我们直接开始，然后大概花个5分钟左右，咱俩对话几轮，对话完了之后，我立刻给你点评，点评完了，如果其他人有强烈的意见或者建议的话，停下我，不然咱就不停了，因为我今天时间比较紧，好吧？那我们就直接开始。
哦
OK，yeah，OK，tell me about the time that you resolved a conflict at work.
yeah, sure. So basically, when I work on the re-architecture of the platform, so we need a new basically performance 2x. So I organized a working group that include representative from my team, from basically team X, team Y, and team Z, and then we basically evaluate from different perspective because those teams are our customers. So the evaluate results shows that 2.1 and 2B, 2.1 and 2.2 looks better than others. So as the DRI for the project, I lead the decision making on which one to pick. So our team and Team XY prefer 2.1. So it's an open source platform and have a good performance. But like the Team Z, they strongly disagree. They prefer the 2.2. So how can we reach the consensus? I basically organize a meeting to and we go over the pro and cons for those two different tools. And then in the end, basically we vote. And unsurprisingly, our team and the other two teams vote 2-1, but the team they basically voted 2-2. So next I organized another meeting basically to resolve the conflict. So we listened carefully to basically team Z's needs. And so from how they basically depict like how they use the tool, basically we actually understand the pain point from the team Z's perspective because they are the real users of the tools. So we basically agree to open the 2.2 for the team Z for their use case. But in general, basically we recommend the 2.1 as our new platform. So it's a win-win situation at the end and everybody is happy.
Okay, so you mean basically you ended up having two different solutions.
Yeah, we have two solutions, but basically the 2.2, we already have it in our company. We just like open up a connection for the team Z basically to use it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like relatively small effort. Yeah, but yeah.
yeah. Could you like dive into more details on how you try to persuade team? Because I assume it's more than only two meetings. You just talk about two meetings you organize, but I guess it's much more behind that. So could you dive into more details on how you try to persuade that team to use your preferred solution and how you ended up giving up and let them use the solution they want?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So actually it's a very long meeting. The second team meeting takes around like 2.5 hours. So basically first we basically go over the team these questions, right? We have some questions like why do we prefer the 2.1 instead of 2.2? So basically we explain them in detail, like because like we evaluate basically using our basically from our perspective. Sometimes actually they have different knowledge and also basically different skills. So sometimes actually they don't fully understand but like we basically slowly and explain carefully to basically try to get the understanding from them about why we prefer tool one. In the meantime, we also listen carefully to them because actually they are the user who really use the tool. So basically the pain point that they have on the tool one, that's like, so we need to basically understand and from have an empathy from the user's perspective. Yeah. So I think like after they present their daily day-to-day work, yeah, I basically get a very deep like understanding of okay, actually why they strongly uh, opposed to the 2-1 actually makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your major learning from this? How would you do things differently in the future?
Yeah, that's a great point. So basically, I think like so different teams have their different skill set from different perspective. From this example, we feel like actually there's a small gap between the communication for those teams. So basically, I think like so yeah. So I'm also basically talking to the tech leads from other teams. So basically, we organize a monthly sync basically for the each team, for example, demo how the way how they work, what they are working on. So basically to try to like fill in that gap, yeah,
Yeah.
to get a better understanding of each team, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.好，那我们就先停到这儿。这第一个人，我们今天就先说到这儿。那么我先说我的观点，然后你可以说你的，然后我们就下一个。就是我觉得这个面试者可以看出来水平还是比较高的，我个人觉得。首先他做的最好一点是什么？他问题抽象的非常好，他不像有些人上来给你扔很多技术细节，在 BQ 这一轮，如果你扔技术细节的话，说明你水平真的很有限啊。因为面试官是不可能懂你那些技术细节的，面试官要想跟你聊下去，你必须要把你说的所有东西都抽象出来，然后多说高层的东西，少扔技术细节啊。这个面试者做的非常好，他 team XYZ 什么的 solution one two，你就得这样说，不要。然后 solution one 为什么好啊？open source 什么这些你可以说，但是你不要说 solution one 叫什么什么什么，solution two 叫什么，你从公司内部的名词都扔出来了，这是肯定就是很影响你面试的，你面试官直接就懵逼了。所以他上来就是这样说的话，你感觉啊，这个人水平还是可以的，知道对什么人说什么话。你对面试官就要说面试官能听懂的话，首先这个是非常非常好的。然后这个面试者有什么可以改进的地方呢？改进地方就是我问你的 follow up 问题，我问的那些 follow up 问题，如果你能主动说出来，都是很好的。第一个就是在说服那个组的时候，这过程中整个东西显得有点潦草，就开俩会就说服了。你这样说的话，就是这个故事可能是真的，可能也有一些编的成分，这个不重要。重要的是，你如果只能说到这个层面的话，离 L6还是稍微有点差距，因为你没有展现出来你的认知，你的就因为 BQ 面试这个东西，大家其实都在演，那么演的话，你要考虑你怎么演的比别人好。那其实就是在说出这些东西的基础之上，你要展现你的认知。你的认知就是，比如说我刚才问你那些，你在跟他开会的时候用了什么技巧，以及开会之外有什么技巧？我刚才让你 deep dive 就是想听到你更多的用到的这些跟人交流的技巧，比如说你有没有在开会之前，我举个例子啊，我举个例子是想说我会怎么编这个故事。我举个例子，比如说开会之前搞清楚他们那个组谁说了算，跟那个人单独拉出来开个5个小时的会，搞清楚他们主要 concern 是什么，然后最后开会的时候是胜利的冲锋，而不是开会了才真正的开始说服别人。就开会之前已经把 stakeholder 逐个击破了，这种意识你有没有？没看到展现出来。我是说我可能会这样编故事啊，对不对？你展现认知，
OK，
这是第一个。第二个就是完了之后你学到了什么，以及你改进了什么东西，你从技术上、非技术上改进了什么东西，这个要主动提出来也是很好的。我问你，就是我想得到类似的信号。啊，这个你回答倒是非常好。你说啊，there's a gap in communication，然后我们组织了一个东西，这个是我想看到的。但是 我希望你如果能主动说出来是更加分的。对，
OK，对，如果比如说那个，就是说这个我这故事，你是不是能听出来什么？就是感觉有点那种编造的痕迹，还是感觉不是特别真实？听着。
没有，就是大家故事都是有加工成分的，所以这个倒无所谓。这个我没有那个心思去听你故事是不是编的，我着重在看你有没有认知。你就算是编的，你只要能展现出来认知都是没问题的。就是你有些人他没有这个认知，他说开会之前要跟 stakeholder 先私下开一下会，把他们逐个击破。你没有这个认知，你就编不出来这种故事。
那我比如说我怎么能，比如说我在自己准备的时候，我怎么能有这个认知呢？就是说
那这个认知来源于工作呀，所以你没有这个认知，那就是拿不到这个 offer，就是这个
，OK，
问题就没有办法。其实
好的好的。
对，好的，其他人如果有强烈的意见想评论的话，说一下。没有的话，咱下一个人了。下一个有这些面试者有没有上线的？
没有的话，我来吧，我来
哦，
接。
好的，那我们直接
虽然说我还想再编一下吧，
你那你准备好了没有？
可以。
啊，可以，那我们直接开始哈。OK，
Sure.
yeah, yeah. Tell me about the time that you resolved a conflict at work.
Yeah. So I lead a automation project. And there's a team A and team B. The challenge is how to prioritize them. Actually, each team want to be prioritized, and the manager's opinion is to prioritize component B because component B has used most recent technical stack and have higher visibility. At the very beginning, I agree on this, and from the implementation perspective, because it use the newer technical stack and doesn't have much technical depth, so it's easier to implement. But later I realized something might lead to potential risk. The problem is component B is depends on the component A, and component A is quite legacy and has a lot of technical depth, and it's not very unreliable. So from this perspective, I showed both team and the manager some data like a pager, the numbers of pager, and the reliability status. They agree on this, but the manager still insists on prioritizing the component B because of the visibility. But my point is because component A is not reliable, no matter how fancy the feature we roll out for component B, because it's unreliable, that made not much sense. So I come up with another solution for this. Let me prioritize to automate the component A, but let the other engineer to do the manual rollout for the component B, because component A consume more engineer time because it's legacy, as I mentioned. So after automating this, you could say way more engineer time. Manager agree on this, but actually we don't have that much engineers in our team. Eventually, the manager borrow ask some engineers help from the other team and make it a happy ending. So we deliver on time for both component A and component B. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so sorry, I'm a bit lost because there are too many details. Could you help me highlight the thing that you did that helped resolve the conflict?
Yeah, the conflict is the prioritization for the component A and B. So what I did is at first I list some data to persuade the team that we should prioritize the component A because of the reliability. And the second thing I do is to come up with the solution that we could reach, we could deliver on time for both, as to do the automation for component A, but and more engineer to do the manual work for component B.
Yeah, for the first thing, could you dive into more details?
Yeah, sure. So because I directly manage the reliability of this component, so I had more insights on this, and I have the metric, the dashboard on hand. So I just export the data, generate the reports, and show it to the team and the manager. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like magic. You just pull some data and you show them to other teams and they just spot it. So there's no like difficulty for them to believe in you. It's that easy, right?
Not really, because at first you need to realize this issue, and it's just potential risk because we are doing the migration at that time, and as the traffic increase, it become more unreliable. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a chain. Actually, you couldn't tell it directly from the metric.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds good. What about the second thing you did? Could you provide more details?
Yeah, the second thing is my insight is because the component A consume more engineer time because it's legacy, and it's way more complicated to do the rollout manually. So my solution is I prioritize the automation for the component A. At the meantime, we let the engineer to do the manual rollout for the component B. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I guess that's it for today. 好的。请问你是面什么等级？如果你想面的话。
915。
L5是吧？我觉得 L5的话问题不是很大，但是有改进空间的。首先
OK
就是说几个问题啊。第一个问题是讲故事的时候不要上来就给 context，上来应该先讲一句话总结这个故事。你上来给了我太多 context，然后中间你做的部分就两句话带过，然后最后又给了很多 context，导致整个我不知道我听下来就你第一遍把故事讲完，你讲了非常非常多，但是我听下来我没觉得你干了什么很厉害的事儿，我也没有看，更没有看出来你的认知了，然后然后就是我后面就必须要问那些问题，我要不问的话，这故事听了就是白听，而且听了之后让我感觉你总结能力不太行，因为上来就是 context，而不是上来就是一句话总结。I'll tell you about a conflict that I did A and B to resolve a conflict between blah blah blah。就是他问你一个问题，第一句一定是上来的直觉是第一句话一定是先总结这个故事，不要让面试官在你的就我在你的大量的细节里面，就是我人都已经麻了，我不知道我在听什么。对，所以我最后面问的问题我都问不出来什么问题。我说 你能不能说一下你到底干了啥？因为我真的忘了，就是面试官可能他记忆力也不是很好，像我这种我记忆力也不是很好，我记不住那么多东西。对，然后在 highlight 你自己做的事情的时候，总结的还行，嗯，总结还行，我觉得这样总结的话，L5是没什么问题，只是就是你要记住，你要如果再想进步的话，比如说你说第一件事儿，把 data pull 下来，为什么要 pull？就是你 BQ 面试，你不能只说你干了啥，你要多说你为什么干，你看的是你的认知，而不是说我干了这个，然后就发生那个，我 pull 了 data，我把 data 扔给了他们的 manager，他 manager 就相信我了。这玩意儿它不是一个，这玩意儿就不就非常搞笑。这种东西就是我看过太多人了，因为大多数人面试他学那个什么 STAR 原则，他最后讲出来就是这样。但这个东西你听上去是很搞笑的，我这种故事一个小时可以编出来100个。这个不光是对你说的，因为3年前我像你这样讲，我也过了 L5的面试，所以不用太担心，好吧？就这样是可以过 L5的面试的。但是我这个是给所有人讲的。如果你真的想进步，你不能的，你的能力不能只局限于这个层面，就是我只讲我干了啥，然后发生什么。比如说我 pull 了 data 给他 manager 看了，然后他们就买账了，就这种东西就撑死了，就是 L5级别。你 pull 了 data，你为什么要 pull data？你说特别好，我为什么要 pull data？因为这个东西它不是那么直观的。对不对？你多给一个这种 context 就展现出来你认知啊，不是那么直观的，所以我 pull data 就是我牛逼，而不是说每个人都能想到去 pull data，我就去 pull 了一下，这个就没意思了。然后你给他的 manager 跟 tech lead 看了，那么看的时候能不能多讲一些细节，同时能不能多讲一些你用的技巧？就是我给他们看了，然后他们就买账了。那这个又是比较一般的故事了。比如说我跟他们看之前，我先给他们 set 了什么 context。而且我知道这个 tech lead 比较 technical，我跟他给他分享的东西就更有 technical 的东西。但是这个 manager 其实更关心组里的人的成长，所以我就从对于他们组里人的成长这个角度来说服他。哎，你这种东西就能展现更高一层的认知，而不是简单的我给他们看了就好了。我只是举个例子啊，还是举个例子说我会怎么编这个故事，怎么加工这个故事。你这故事挺不错的，只是第一讲故事的方法，第二加工的时候再好好思考一下。总体来说还是可以的。对
好的，谢谢。
对，然后有一点你可以主动说，就是你学到了什么，你改进了什么。这一点基本上对于所有的 BQ 面试故事都是万能的，而且这一点讲得好也是很展现认知的。你最大的 take away 是什么东西？然后你后面如何 drive 了什么 effort 来改进这些技术的非技术的东西？这个对，回去注意一下，应该就更好了。对，
好的，谢谢。
好的，举手的同学，你有强烈意见说吧。
我没有什么强烈意见，我就稍微补一句，就是我准备 BQ 的时候有一个小技巧，就是你要去找那些没有技术背景或者是没有很强工作背景的人去跟他说你的故事，然后要保证他们能听懂。你比如说，有时候我会选择拽一些老人，说我工作干了什么，然后逼他们听懂，然后来打磨我自己说话的方式，保证我不会带入太多的 detail 来做这件事情。这就是我自己的一个小技巧。因为你自己知道什么事情，你说的时候，你很有可能就是你误以为别人也有相同的 context，但这其实是不可能的。
我这个同学你太厉害了，我要向你学习啊！首先在哪可以找到老人啊？
你比如说，我是会给我奶奶打电话，然后类似的事情。
太聪明了。好的，嗯、我们后面还有其他志愿者、面试者上线了吗？现在，
可以。
请问你是哪个 ID？
第二个
第二个。好
TL3221。
OK，好的，那我们就直接开始吧。Okay, yeah, tell me about a time that you resolved a conflict at work.
Yeah, sure. I was tasked with developing a software solution to automate the document processing based on the new requirements. I completed POC using the natural language processing service and presented to my managers. However, he was not satisfied with the performance in terms of the accuracy and expressed the doubt this solution will actually work in production environments. So my managers prioritized accuracy and emphasizing the need for a robust system that could minimize the errors and ensure the data integrity. And while I think slightly different from other perspectives, I focus on developing a tool that will enhance the overall workflow efficiency and productivity, in the sense that we need to make this service continuous improvements as we process more documents. So in order to align me and my manager on the same page, so we need to identify the success matrix of the projects and like what should we prioritize first. And I set up the open discussions with my managers. While accuracy was a crucial aspect of the project, I explained the probabilistic nature of the machine learning models. The several factors could impact the accuracy, like including the documents quality, like scanned documents versus the digital forms, and also the quality of the training data. And my manager acknowledged these points. And I also emphasized that an efficient workflow could address both accuracy and performance concern. And I proposed tracking the key metrics like accuracy and processing time and error rates. And additionally, we could analyze the model's confidence rate for each process document. And based on the confidence rate analysis, we can establish a specific threshold. So the documents with a confidence rate below the threshold would be considered for a human review. And this human review would then be used to label those documents for continuous model improvement. So by building a comprehensive workflow that includes a human review for lower confidence cases, we could ensure the document accuracy and improve the machine learning model's performance over time. And this efficient workflow provided foundation for the project success. And through the open communications and data-driven analysis, I successfully aligned expectation with my managers. And I also said that regular check-ins allow me to demonstrate the model's accuracy improvement after we adopting the efficient workflow. And following the implementation, so the tool reduced the workflow for the operations team by 30%, leading to a 20% increase in the process documents per week. And this efficiency gain was recognized by other business units as well, who expressed interest in adopting the tool for their own workflows. So the model's accuracy and reliabilities were enhanced through continuous iterations and target modifications addressing the initial concerns raised by my managers. And after this projects, so I think successfully resolving the conflicts can build a collaborative environments built on trust and the respect. And it also highlights the importance of open communications and also the data-driven decision-making process. And this process allows for learning and growth as different perspectives are considered to reach a compromise that benefits everyone involved in the teams. That's the story of my how to resolve the conflict.
Yeah, so basically from what I heard, you had some discussions with your manager, and your manager eventually you didn't sacrifice on accuracy. You just you reached a consensus with your manager in delivering the project, but you didn't sacrifice accuracy, right?
No, because I think everything comes as the prioritized thing, right? So if we can prioritize building the efficient workflow, so the accuracy will improve as we using the service over time, and as we have a good quality documents and which we can use them to train our model, and also the accuracy also can be guaranteed by setting up the human review process So for those documents with lower confidence rate, we can send it to the human review process.
Yes, I think that's very smart. So you make sure the project's delivered without sacrifice on the accuracy which your manager cared about. So could you tell me more about how did you come up with that idea, or someone else told you about it?
So first of all, I think for the machine learning model, we need to have a mindset that the machine learning models or AI could not replace our humans. So our priorities is to make sure how we can make our AI service can better collaborate with humans. So at the beginning, I didn't think the AI model can replace the human workflow, but instead, I think we still need to have a human's intervention to help something that AI model is not able to resolve. So this is my thought process. How we gonna why we need to have the human review process to step in the process.
Yeah. So what's the biggest impact this project had on you? Because does your manager change his or her mind after this project, or is the collaboration model different after this project between you and your manager?
That's a good question. So after this project successfully launched, so sorry, are you talking about the technical perspective or the soft skills
Anything.
perspective?
It could be anything.
Yeah. So for the technical perspective, I learned a lot from this perspective because this is my first time to develop a service which interact with the AI model and also some training. So this will benefit a lot, like to gain some knowledge on the AI. For the second perspective, for the soft skills, so I think have open discussions with my managers when we have a conflict. It's really help us to brainstorm the ideas. We are not talking about which idea is good or bad, but we are trying to figure out how to solving the problems together, how to come up with the better solutions to help our business grow. So I think this is only one of the examples that to reflect the relationship between me and my manager. So after this product launch, so we continuous delivers several products. Although we have some conflicts, but I think we at the end of the day we resolve it and come up with a better solution.
OK，thank you，谢谢啊，谢谢这个同学。我觉得整体还是非常不错的。首先你很多优点，第一个优点就是你英语真的挺不错的，你英语就讲起来很流畅，没什么乱七八糟的词，然后讲细节讲的也挺好的。然后还是那个问题，上来就直接进入故事，而不是上来一句话总结这个故事。这就是我强烈建议啊，每个人你准备 BQ 准备的每一个故事。第一句话一定是总结这个故事，而不是第一句话上来就开始讲故事。像你这个故事第一句话怎么总结？很容易总结。I'll tell you about the conflict that I had with my manager and how I resolved it。这句话就够了，就是一句话总结这个故事，就是你就不会让我听起来这么累，不然的话别人听起来真挺累的。你说了前面三句话还在讲 context，那我就不知道你啥时候会进入主题。不如一句话先给我总结了，这是强烈的建议，对所有人的。也不只是对你的，但是你故事是讲的挺好的，而且你在故事讲的时候有几个点讲的特别好，导致我也问不出来什么问题了。你讲的时候，你讲如何选了一个折中的方案，非常聪明的选了折中的方案，就不是说牺牲了你，也不是说牺牲了我，不是说有了 conflict 我就要干你或者你要干我，这种 mindset 都是达到 L5的标准，都是没有问题的。然后后面你又说你完了之后学到了什么？我 follow up 问题问了，第一个我问的不是特别好，没得到什么信号。那我第二个问的就是你这个东西如何影响了你跟 manager 之间的关系？我觉得你讲的东西 同时你也讲了你自己的思考，这非常好的，就是你不光讲了事实，你也讲了你自己的思考，而且展现出来认知都是挺好的，所以我觉得整体没什么问题，L5肯定是没问题。你具体要面什么等级，你知道吗？
是
4是吧？那可能你是有点太厉害了哈。对，这没什么问题。
对吧？
对
好的，谢谢。那我想问一下，就是那个你第一句话说的那个，说那个 conflict，如果是第一句话，就是说简单说一下，那之后再补 context 吗？还是说
是的，对你第一句话说完，后面再补 context，补的时候你明确的告诉面试者啊，这是 context，这是我干的，就是你讲话的时候要层次清晰，就是第一句话总结，别人知道啊，这是第一层。第二句话说啊，这是 context，这是我干的啊，这就是第二层。然后说啊，context 细节是我干的细节，这是第三层。你不要给我太多脑力的负担，你自己先把层次给我列清晰，就没有那么多负担。因为我在面试中，我跟别人讲故事，我就是讲，我就是先2句话讲完，2句话讲完之后，我就说你要继续听我讲细节，还是我开始讲我学到的东西，因为我知道他对你细节一定是不关心的，你讲细节一定是为了让这个故事更丰满，而不是为了讲细节，面试中讲出来细节都没有用的。那我就说你到底要不要听？我会问面试官，你要听我讲细节，还是听我开始讲我学到的东西？我从这一次事件中学到的东西，有时候他会让我继续讲细节，有时候他就不会让我讲了，所以小技巧。好吧，
最后一个问题就是这个是否applies to other questions？就是其他问题也是一样，你上来就给个你的中心思想，然后再丢 context 这样吗？
是的，我觉得 BQ 面试大多数基本的人，但我不能说绝对，我不能保证，对吧？但是大多数一定要这样的。这个不光符合于 BQ 面试，跟你平时跟跨组的人聊天，怎么给他聊明白？他没有 context，怎么给他聊明白？生活中别人不懂你干什么，你怎么跟他聊明白？其实都是这个类似的中心思想，就是简单快速的把核心讲出来，然后一步一步的往细节拓展。
谢谢群群。
对。好的，我们有没有下一个面试者上线？
我可以
好的，你是
啊，
这
瑞，
OK，好的，那直接开始吧。Okay, yeah, so could you tell me about a time that you resolved a conflict at work?
So I remember a time where we our team need to build a new feature, and there are two alternatives, and there are conflict within the team, and in the end I resolve the conflict by diving deep into this issue. The situation is we need to build a new feature, and we do need a new workflow for the data. And there are basically comes up to two options within the team. Either we can use the existing workflow that we don't own, and or we can create a new workflow for this new feature. And some of the teammates supports for the first option to use the existing one. The reasoning being it's easier and less effort to build this because I already have part of the code structure there, and that the cons for that option is it might be a little bit more hard to maintain in future. And the alternative is to create our own workflow for this new feature. It's a bit more initial effort for now, and it might have the risk to delay the release of the release of this new feature. But in the long term, it's easier to maintain and can be easier to maintain and can add or remove the data from this workflow. So there are a discussion on this. So I support the second option to create our own workflow as it's more extensible in future. But some of the teammates think it's kind of risky to have this to delay the release of this feature. So after the meeting, I talked to the teammates who have support the first option to listen to the why they want to choose the first option. And after talking to them, I drafted a document that document down the pros and cons of these two options. And I also dive into the code a little bit to really build a simple POC on how we can create our own workflow for the feature, and summarized the thoughts and the data into the document. And then I just invited teammates for another discussion session to talk about the advantage and disadvantages of these two options, and convinced the teammates that with a little bit more effort right now, it's more manageable and easier to maintain our own code rather than use the existing ones. And the risk of delaying the release is also manageable because the POC shows it's less complicated than we initially thought this problem is. So the result being team really agrees on the implementation plan of this feature and choose the second option, and we proceed with creating our own workflow. And the result is also we didn't delay the release of this the release of this feature.
Yeah. That's a great story. And do you have any? Could you elaborate on the impact of the project, specifically the impact of you in the project?
Yeah. So I think this is I try to understand this problem I try to understand the trade-offs between these two options, and I just try to build a bridge between the teammates and really let everyone know what's the pros and cons between those two options. And I don't particularly think I did like a lot of work, but that's really important to have everyone on board on the same page to and really understand what the current issue is and what we're trying to solve. And
Yeah, so I think the highlight is that you build the POC that gives everyone a better understanding. So what made you build the POC?
right, yeah, I think the team need to have something we need to have something presentable for the team so that everyone can see like clearly what's a trade-off, or like what, because some teammates might worry about the delaying of the project, but the building that POC really shows that it's really not that complicated to build.
Yes, but my question is why did you come up with the idea of building a POC?
Oh, right, yes, because I think it's more presentable for the teammate to convince them for the second option, which is more scalable in the future.
Okay, got it. And what's your biggest takeaway from this project? And what did you how does the project change your way of approaching a problem after it's launched?
Yeah, so before this case, I sometimes thought like the choosing the right engineering option is sometimes the team lead's responsibility, and as a IC, sometimes just might overlook the contribution I can make to the team. But after this one, I can see even as a lower level IC, sometimes you can really if you can build a POC that convince the teammates, the product can really go to the better way.
OK，好的，我总结一下，讲的非常好。 然后就是我不知道你这个一句话总结是现场立刻想的，还是刚才我刚才给大家说了，你现场立刻想，还是之前你就知道，因为你上来一句话总结你的故事，然后
我是现场，就是您刚说这个最好有一句话总结，所以说我大概总结了一下。
对，挺好的。然后讲故事讲的也挺好，而且中间是有亮点的。亮点就是你一己之力写了个 POC，然后就让很多人的 argument 就是变得更加的容易了。因为很多时候，因为现实生活就是这样，现实生活是很复杂的，不是说你以为它很复杂，不是说以为有一个 solution，你以为它很难做，它就是真的很难做。有时候你做一个 prototype 出来，你就会发现哦，它其实没有你想象那么难。那么你在面试中你明确展现出来这种认知，那这种认知就是 L5以上的人才会有的认知，就是说，他事情不总是像你想象那样，有时候做一个 prototype 出来，你就是能把很多 risk 给消除。那么你展现出来这个认知是非常非常大一个亮点，所以我也在这个方向上继续的深入地问了一层，我问你是为什么要做这个 POC？就我想看到是更深的，你有没有这种认知？但是你搁那说你做出来个 POC 有多么多么牛逼，我不需要你再说你有多么多么牛逼了，我要说我要看你的认知，我要看你到底是你别人告诉你你才去做的，还是说你主动去做的？这时候如果你就说你说这个东西就是我主动去 drive 的，我觉得因为我懂这一块，我就觉得一个 POC 可以怎么样。如果你能说到这个层面上，又会给你进一步加分。最后我就问你啊，你学到最大的东西是什么？你就说学到最大的东西是啊，这种东西不总是某个人责任，作为低级别 IC，咱也可以有这种 impact，非常非常好，这就是非常非常好的说出来的认知，就是说虽然你的级别不高，虽然你是 IC，但是你依然可以通过这种东西在技术层面上做出很大的贡献。我觉得整体你说的非常非常好。你面什么等级你知道吗？
我大概 target 可能是L5，但是不一定年限够，大概L4到L5吧。
对，但是这个面试能力差不多了。对。
好，谢谢了。有没有什么就是比方说缺点我可以注意一下的？
缺点没有，因为我听不出来缺点，缺点就是说硬说要改进的地方，你故事可以稍微再精简一点。
好的。
对，就是还是那句话，没有人很关心你那个技术，就关心你的认知，关心你你你就是后面我 probe 你了，对吧？我问你啊，为什么要 build POC，以及你学到什么？就这种东西，如果你能在讲故事的时候主动能强调这些点，不需要等他追问，也是挺好的。当然，你等他问也没问题。对。
好，谢谢。
好的，下一个同学
我是那个上面的第一个。
，OK，好的，那我们直接开始了。Okay, tell me about a time that you resolved a conflict at work.
Sure, I'd like to share how I resolved the conflict in cross-functional resourcing and collaboration. So the context is I was leading a project of migrating of our clients from an old API to a set of new APIs. But in order to meet a yearly announcement event timeline, I had to align multiple teams' prioritization and resourcing. Due to this is an engineering-driven effort, there was no EPM, so I needed to get work scheduled in their team's roadmap and track all the team's effort. How I get it resolved was first I brought all the leadership of stakeholders on the same page about the impact and urgency of this project. I have quantified the benefits, including client benefits, cost saving on server side, and developer efficiency that it could bring. And I also called out the issues if we are not doing the migration, because client could be blocked because of they don't have access to critical features, which is only supported in the new API. This is how I get it scheduled, but during implementation, what I did was to minimize their team's work by reducing engineering effort, by making reasonable trade-offs in technical decision, and also minimize the communication cost by running online and offline discussions. After the work was implemented, I have given credit to partner teams by sending out an announcement to larger teams, including the names and teams involved in this project. And Yeah, before I summarize what I've learned, do you have any questions?
Yes, the story sounds fascinating. So I'm very interested because you said you just did some magic and those stakeholders just believed in you. But in reality, for this kind of company, I assume it's company level project because you mentioned some announcement events. So for this kind of project, you in order to get buy-in from multiple stakeholders, there must be lots of people to persuade. And could you elaborate on how you successfully persuade all of those stakeholders?
Yes. Just to call out, in real interview, I would mention some of the details, but here, because it's mock interview, I can't talk about some of the
Okay.
details. But in general, I was an DRI of a different project, which is supporting some new features in our new API. This is some critical features which I know it will be needed by our clients. But we don't want to support it in both new and old APIs. So if client don't migrate, they will be stuck in the old API and they can't leverage these new features. This is one of the critical reason I kind of used to persuade stakeholder teams. But of course, there are many things we need to list, including like what I mentioned, including the cost saving, which can be brought to the entire company. And our clients would be able to, the client will be able to use the new API and have better efficiency in their development and client server interaction.
Okay, so you're basically saying the thing you pushed for has so many benefits, and you kind of threatened all the teams as well in some way that if they don't migrate, they're gonna lose a lot of benefit.
It's maybe I wasn't clear. It's not threatened. It's kind of because I was in the same team which supports the old and new API and some other features. So I have a better vision of the entire story, which is not that clear to lots of the stakeholder teams. Some of the teams are like UI team, some of them are SRE, so they may not be aware of the full story.
Yes, so this is my question as well. There's so many teams to persuade. It certainly shouldn't be that smooth to persuade all the teams, especially when teams that are tight in staffing, when they don't have enough engineers to do the migration work. How do you like persuade those teams?
So first of all, this effort is not specifically heavy work on any one team. It's a collaboration. And the most of the work are done by my team and a different team. And the other team, we have discussed the trade-offs between multiple solutions, and we have found a middle ground where it's not too much effort for both of our teams, and it's a future-proof solution. So for other teams which don't have too much work, I have used the ways I mentioned to persuade them. But for the other team and my team, we have made reasonable trade-offs.
Okay, sounds good. And because this is a migration project and there will always be risks. So what did you do to make sure the rollout of the migration is smooth, and what did you do to minimize the risk?
Yeah, so I'm the server team, so it's a standard process of having feature enablers, which can quickly roll back and enable the feature on server side. And also we have worked with client team, which is the UI team, to have a feature enabler on their side as well. So they can also turn on and turn off this feature if we see any issues. And also part of the rollout, we did thorough testing in UAT environment and also in prod stage environment before it goes to the actual customers. And we did have multiple QA teams around to do like server automated test, UI testing, and other end-to-end testing.
Okay, so in terms of testing, that's sounds great coverage for me. What about people issues? Like, is there any people issues that you solved or you try to solve when you're rolling out the migration? Or am I clear in my question?
People issues. So there are always people issues. For this specific project, I guess the challenge is there weren't any like difficult people to deal with. Of course there are, but for my specific case, I think most people are collaborative. It's just it's actually depend on how you communicate and how you maybe they just need some guidance, or maybe they just need a good reason to start their work. So yeah, I think it's part of the communication and also part of how you work with them. But yeah, it turned out I didn't have to deal with any specific like difficult people.
OK， yeah， 好的，感谢这个同学。我说之前，我想给大家说一下，就是没见过 L6面试的，这就是 L6面试，就是可能很多同学没有见过 L6的那个 behavior question 面试是什么样，就是这个样的，就是以这个为参考，好吧？就是如果你想去面 L6，你有这个水平，你就可以去面 L6。然后对这个人，我没有什么过多的要评价的，就是非常成熟，可能你水平比我还要高。所以我就不太好评价了，就是我感觉很好。你有什么对我评价的吗？
啊，没有，谢谢，我不可能比你水平高吧？你看但是这个你问的问题倒是还是挺好的，而且我是听了你刚才说要先有一句话总结，我才加了一句话总结。我一般好像这种类似的问题，我不会加一句话总结，我觉得这一点还挺好的。
对，但是你讲故事能力是真的很强，因为就一个人讲故事能力，直接就展现出来你沟通水平。你没有 drive 很多的 meeting 的话，你不会有这种沟通水平。就是那就然后面试中展现出来的沟通水平就不可能给你 L6的 offer。如果你说你在公司是 L6，但是你展现出来沟通水平就是很弱，那也不可能给你 L6的 offer。所以面试中一定要有这种级别的沟通水平，就是讲故事详略得当，然后就是直戳要害，就是反正就是这就是沟通能力强。希望就是大家就向这个学习，这是你学习的方向。对。
谢谢，我还有一个小问题哈，是咱们这种conflict story，我感觉就是其实平时工作中的 conflict 其实很多嘛，每天都有 conflict，但是什么样的 story 会比较的适合用于面试呢？就是我选了一个就是这种 cross functional 的，但是有没有这种其他的例子？就比如说什么就是比较适合这种 conflict。
我是觉得你等级你肯定是面 L6吧，我没猜错的话。
对。
对你面 L6的话，首先你 conflict 展现出来 scope 肯定要足够大，不然的话你说出一朵花来都很难，知道吗？你 conflict cross functional 或者说跟 director VP 的 conflict，跟多个组 TL 的 conflict，这种拿出来说，一个 L6 如果拿出来说 conflict，说的都是跟 manager 的 conflict，那一个 L3也可以跟 manager conflict，那这种展现出来 scope 不够大，首先就不太好了。我不是说不行啊，我只是说就不太好了。那么在这个前提下，这只是一个前提，在这个前提下，你要把这个故事讲出一朵花来，需要详略得当，同时也要能展现出来你的认知。我觉得你今天都是做到了。第一，你的故事的 scope 足够大；第二，我在几个方向上问了一些很深的问题，就是保证了你这个故事要么不是编的，要么就是编的非常好。那这两个我都是可以接受的，就那种编的但编的不好的那就不行。就不管你是不是编的这个故事非常好，也非常真实。那么在这两个层面上就够了。对，
好的，谢谢。
好的，我们有没有下一个同学进来？这么多人割了吗？今天？
我可以试一下。
好的，你是 Richard 是吧？
对，我是 Richard。
Okay. Let's get started. Yeah. So tell me about a time that you resolved a conflict at work.
Yeah, thank you so much. So So here is a conflict. I came across with other teams tech lead and the over tech lead. So the story was I was planning to start a project while the other tech lead just chimed in to propose, okay, this one, why don't we put it off to the next quarter? I think it is pretty typical in my work, and I just want to bring it out to show how I solve the problem. So initially, I was trying to understand why this tech lead wanted me to explore the option. The option could be acceptable with some kind of constraints, but I just have to check in with the product manager and my own manager about our business roadmap, what kind of deadline, what kind of timeline is acceptable. The business impact is especially important. And another thing is there are also other projects that are dependent on my project. So here is the thing. I told that tech lead about the impact of delaying the project, and that tech lead seemed to be annoyed, and he kind of like using some kind of sharp words like, "Oh, is that really unacceptable?" And I tried to calm him down at that moment, but later this guy escalated to the over tech lead. So yeah, so this just makes the situation even more complex. And the over tech lead came to me and asked for justification. I was trying to understand his perspective, like he didn't care too much about the business part, or he framed it in another way. He was thinking, oh, you should favor more on the long-term impact versus the short-term impact. And the long-term impact, if your two teams could collaborate on something later, that would be great. Instead of you go this path at this quarter. And I was trying to formulate my thoughts. Actually, I prepared something beforehand so that I could articulate all these kind of things to the pros and cons to the over tech lead. And I found something that he thought, he assumed probably wrong. He had a false assumption at the very beginning that this project could be in some way, in some tricky way, be delayed off to the next quarter, and we have some workaround. And I told the tech lead, over tech lead, okay, this workaround may not be working that well, and may going to have a big impact. And the over tech lead seems, he nodded his head, but he didn't seem very happy. And after this meeting, I was thinking myself if there is any better way to make him happy, or to also satisfy his need. And after a few days preparation, checking to the data, and thinking about the technical solutions, I proposed to him using one page about a win-win solution that also touches his request, touches his need, and trying to alleviate the biggest pain point of the other team. So that team basically just want us to use their tool. So they are doing internal tools, but they just got started and they want us to use them. And our project is really urgent and needs to do it early. But I propose that we can still be there for the user, like touching, using their tools, but it's just for like for comparison with our existing tool. We can show them the result of comparison that can help them improve their internal tool. And this result actually make both the TL, Uber TL, and the other teams TL very happy. They can accept this result. And I also check like sync all this kind of progress with line manager, and also the senior manager. I try to compile a one pager about everything, the pros and cons, business parts, and the technical solutions, and finally a creative way to make everyone agree on the same page. And finally, everyone was happy, and I also learned a lot in this from this kind of situation. Are there
Okay.
any questions?
What's your biggest learning?
The biggest learning is always view conflict as opportunities, because other people, they propose something must for a reason. They have their perspective. In this example is like, okay, the other team, they're just like building infra for this org, and they think a lot about the tech side, and for the business side, I probably just need to like provide him this additional information, and that's one thing. And the other thing is, there could be like always, win-win position. You just need to look for it. I mean, to proactively look for. It must be like something there. Sometimes there are trade-offs that okay, everyone can just take and compromise, but there are creative solutions. And I was lucky to find this one. And another thing could be okay to really understand people when they like got annoyed. They seemed annoyed because like in my example that DL said, oh, is this really unacceptable? Hearing that tone, I was feeling nervous, but I quickly calmed myself down, and I know, okay, he must be also very nervous. And so keeping a healthy relationship in teams is really important for both his team and my team. And I try to like ask him, why is there any concern behind this that made him feel so urgent, make him feel we have to proceed this way. By understanding his reasoning, I was able to like make him feel heard, and then like the communication was able to proceed.
感谢。
Yeah.
首先，说你的优点，你优点是你这个故事非常非常好，非常非常硬啊。然后故事中你是有亮点的，你写了 one pager， 只是这个亮点引出的太晚了，我等了好久好久，等到你引出亮点。第三，你的认知展现出来认知都非常好，就是你的认知展现出来都很成熟，都 L5+的，就是关于就是一个人在你面前发脾气了怎么应对，关于出现 conflict 的时候，那一定是 opportunity， 这种认知都非常好，都说的非常好。那么你最大问题，我不知道你能不能感受到你最大问题，你能说出来吗？
我是不是讲的太慢了？
不是慢，是啰嗦，知道吧？
讲啰嗦。
对，讲的慢也可以不啰嗦。太慢这个东西很难改的，是人的习惯。但是啰不啰嗦，这是可以训练的。你太啰嗦了。
OK。
对，如果你要面试的话，你这个一定要改，其他都挺好的。我听到后面我人都麻了，就说半天，这还没有引出亮点。然后，但是后面我问你 follow up question， 你又答的挺好了，但是答的挺好的，接着你又开始在某个点上一直讲细节讲下去了，没有必要，真的没有必要，很多细节没有必要讲，一两句话就带过了。
哦，好的，好的，感谢建议。
对对对，
对
整体还是
我回去会
不错的。
试一下。
对对对，一定自己多练，多录音，录给自己听。
好的，
好好的，那么我们有没有下一位？
我可以试一下，我是那个 Aloha 4948E。
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, let's get
Okay.
started. Tell me about a time you resolved a conflict at work.
Okay. So once upon a time, so there was a time I was participating in a project, and I came of I was the lead person in my team, and that was a cross team project, and we need to align on the API interface that is going to be used by both of the two different teams. And there are two APIs. One is designed by our dependent team, another is designed by us. And there is one specific field called there's one specific field called file path, which is included in API. And the major conflict happens in whether we need to include net file paths in our API design or not. Because our dependency team, they already include the file paths in their API. And if we include that in our API, our major concern is that could introduce a tight coupling between the dependency team's API and our API design. And in the future, anytime if they change their schema, we have to change accordingly. So this is not maintainable. And if we can reduce that complexity, we can both reduce the time required to deliver our feature. And in the future, it makes our API decoupled better and easier to maintain. The major issue is for their team, for our dependency team, if we reduce this scope, if we delete this attribute from our API design, they have to redesign their architecture to make sure their functional requirement is met. And that will introduce some extra time for them to go through the entire design review process again. And so it's a case kind of where we have a conflict of interest. We have a decision that could lead some side effect to both of the two teams. But if we include that attribute, it does benefit to us, but does some harm to their team. So I think it's time that I wasn't able to find a very strong reason to persuade them, because this does introduce some extra work in their side. So I wrote a one pager, and I reached out to our principal engineer, and I had a in-person conversation with my principal engineer, with the principal engineer in our team, in our organization, and try to get the context introduced to him and see his opinion. And I got the decision. I got the guidance from our principal engineer, and I also later scheduled a meeting inviting both the team members from the two teams, including that principal engineer. And we were able to get aligned, and we were able to make the decision to not include that attribute in our API design. And that eventually reduced our time taken to deliver that feature by 6 weeks. And in the end, I think the major learning from this example is sometimes there are conflicts of interest between two different teams, and sometimes it can be resolved by trying to achieve a win-win situation, try to achieve a win-win. But sometimes it's not feasible, and it's okay to seek help from some more senior people, because they own a larger scope and they view the things from a higher level, and they are able to coordinate well the different conflicts between different teams. And what's more important, I think, is people who is more senior, their word carries a higher weight, and sometimes the same reason but spoken by different people of different level, and the word carries a different weight. So the word from the principal engineer, even it's the same for the same reason, it sounds more persuasive to the other team or to both of the two teams. I think that's a very critical part of why we were able to align quickly by the help of our principal engineer. And that's so much for this story.
Yeah, so let me try to summarize your story in one sentence. You basically leveraged a principal engineer on your team to persuade another team. Is that your story?
The principal engineer is responsible for the entire organization, the entire product, and both of the two teams are under the same organization.
Okay, so but still, your story is about leveraging a principal engineer to help persuade others, right?
Yes.
So what did you do?
What I did was I was trying to get aligned with the principal engineer first, and I would like to see from his perspective which is the best for the organization instead of for a specific team. And that was also a process how we try to we try to learn from principal engineer as well, and we also try to get the principal engineer learn our situation better. And after I make sure that we are aligned, we are on the same page, and I scheduled a larger meeting with both the principal engineer and the engineers from another team included.
OK，感谢这个同学啊，故事很好啊，故事很好，但是故事可以改进啊，没有突出你干了什么，我还是那句话，我一句话总结就是你利用了一个大佬说服了别人，你干了啥？我问你干了啥，你也是跟我扯了很多细节，没有突出你干了啥，你干了啥你就跟他开了个会吗？你这时候不需要反驳我，你给面试官的观感就是你跟他开了会，然后就跟魔法一样，事情都被他完成了。多突出你干了什么？你说服这个 principal engineer，你是怎么说服的？你拿了什么数据出来？这些都没有看到啊。就是我写个 one pager，我也说服了。就是故事大概是可以这样讲，只是说很多细节哪些要突出，哪些少讲，要搞清楚。然后就是前面铺垫太久了，导致面试官容易失去耐心。前面说的无关紧要的铺垫太多了。讲故事不能这么啰嗦，还是那句话，多突出你干了啥，特别是突出你干了啥的背后你的思维方式，你的思维方式非常好，你知道大佬的话 carry more weights。这个很多时候是对的，这没问题。那么就是，那你如何说服大佬跟你站在同一条战线上的？然后，那大佬他是站在全局角度思考，你从大佬那儿学到了什么？站在全局角度思考，这个说出来就挺好的，但是要精简，要少说废话，还是那个 feedback。对，
可以啊，谢谢这 feedback。我觉得这个我当时具体是怎么做，其实我也记不清了，我可能还需要再深挖一下，因为我只记得这些就是找那个 principal engineer 开会一些事情，因为这个我觉得是当时我觉得做的很重要的一个决定，但是具体我是怎么说服他的，因为我们中间可能有一些那个深入的讨论，但是这个是很细节，我回去可能再深挖一下这个故事。
对，而且深入的讨论在面试中不要说出来啊。面试中如何突出你们深入的讨论呢？就是你说我们开了多少次会，讨论的时候我们画了多少个白板，我准备了多少次 data，第一次准备的不够，回去又打磨了多少次，说这个，而不要说具体你们讨论的啥，就全都忘记了都没关系，知道吧
OK，
对，
可以 make sense。
浓墨重彩的说你做了什么努力来说服大佬的，这个是故事最大亮点。好的，
好，谢谢 Miss 光。
好的，我们下一个同学有吗？哦，没有人，我提前下班了。
群主能不能自己示范一下？
我自己示范一下。有没有人来当面试官？我来示范一下。我找一下我的故事，我没准备，你知道吧？你这问题问的。首先那个剩下3个人是不是都给我们割了？我看一下我 conflict 是啥哈。我万一我带了太多工作信息，我这不能说出来呀。
我可以当面试官。
好的。然后我们有3个人割了是吧？那这3个人不好意思，我不给你机会了，因为我一会儿得出去玩了。我示范完我就走，好吧？我看一下。啊，有人上线了吗？没有哈。
哎，群主，我没有在那名单上，可以说吗？
大家是想听你说还是想听我说？可以投票，就是大家想把机会给你，我觉得没问题。我讲还有点尴尬了，因为我找不到我的笔记了。行，那要不咱听你说，来吧。那我们直接开始。Yeah. So tell me about the time that you resolved a conflict at work.
Okay. Here's one experience that I resolved a conflict before between engineering team and ops team in our company to improve the solution quality. The context is I received complaints from CTO. He told me ops team has some complaints for engineering team because they found some errors and bugs when they implement the solution in the client side. And at first I was very curious because I know all the software solution has to pass the QA process, and our QA engineer test every feature thoroughly before we release the new version of the solution. So I talked with one of our engineers who is often interrupted by ops team during his working time. And I found that they complain some issues that we never thought about before. And this is not in the scope of our solution function. I found that the requirements of our solution is often defined by the sales team because they close the deal and they ask for business requirements and they transfer those requirements to us, so we deliver the feature and function by those defined requirements. However, sales team does not implement the solution in the field, and ops team does it. And for some use case, they do not know, but ops team know. And the thing is, with more and more issue reported by ops team, we have some complaints with us. So right now, even I try to schedule a meeting with their ops team member, they often delay the meeting because they're busy to put the fire, and they consider themselves as a firefighter. And I feel that there is a knowledge gap between two teams. We need to find a solution to fill the gap. I talked this with CTO, and I told him that our process may need to improve a little bit, and we need organize meetings between two teams and to find out where we can improve the process. I convinced him get his support for this meeting. So I scheduled a meeting with ops team, invite their director, and several his members. Also bring my senior members into the meeting. And during the meeting, I asked them what the most important thing you require from my engineering team. and we talked some details, and really we found that our QA process, even it is thoroughly defined, but still we miss some knowledge, which is which can be provided by ops team. So I asked if we can collaborate during the QA process. If they can provide one engineer after we test our software, then that will be much better. I mean, much better than receive the error from the field. Also, during the requirements definition process, should we also consider at the ops team when we create the tickets? And those things, I mean, after this meeting, we all agree that we need each other because ops team need to finish their KPI in order to for their year-end performance review. And for engineering team, we also need to release our new features with the help of ops team. After this meeting, we all agree we should have once a week ops team and engineering team huddle to communicate, to share information. And just after this meeting, and we addressed that knowledge gap, the next version of the feature was released successfully. Which I mean, after the release, we rarely heard the complaints from the client side, and that improved our software quality a lot. Both CTO and ops team director are very satisfied for now. Do you have any question before I go into what I learned from this experience?
No, but I'm curious about your biggest learning from this.
Yeah. So what I learned from this is even though we are in different teams, but we work for the same company, we can always find some common ground. Their goal is to finish their KPI and sustain the existing clients as many as possible. That's their KPI. Our goal is to reduce the errors, improve the quality of our software, and not be interrupted by ops or errors during our work time to improve the productivity. So we can deliver more feature and get a better performance review at year end. This is the one. The second is by improving the communication, we can share some knowledge that we didn't know before, which also helps in produce a better product for our clients. With the good reputation spread out, we can make more revenue for the company. And the third one is you need to get support from the higher level leadership team to help implement your thought. And going forward, this successfully addressed issue can be experience that I use for future resolving conflicts. Yeah.
OK，感谢这同学，我觉得故事整体很好，其中展现出来认知也都挺好的，只是还是我感觉，我个人感觉有点啰嗦，还是有点啰嗦。你可以回去听一下录像，就是，然后你说语速可能是有点太慢了， 但我不知道语速慢，可能语速慢可能也不是一件坏事吧，只是引出重点太慢，以及细节讲的有点多。对，这个我觉得好多人都是这个问题，所以我觉得要不大家回去自己看一下自己的录音，然后再看一下自己是不是真有这个问题，还是说我有问题？我觉得我都开始怀疑了，我是不是我有问题？是不是我
要不群主你示范一下吧？
就我来示范一下吧，对吧？在我下班之前，我来给大家示范一下。我看很多人想让我示范，好的，没问题。我就看一下哈，我没有好好准备，我就想一个，OK，我就想一个东西，然后能麻烦谁来当一个面试官，问我一个，我就问我这个问题，对你问就完了。
好的，OK. Okay, could you tell me about a conflict you came across at work?
Yes, so I will tell you about a conflict that I had with my director. So we're an infra team that's also responsible for the customer. So we have to both make sure the product is shipped in time and also the infra is stable. And the conflict is about prioritization between availability effort and shipping new product. So I had different opinions with my director. So that's the background. So we were very busy in shipping new features at a time. There were about a few months we were shipping lots of new features, and our customers are waiting for it, and they threaten to churn if we don't ship the new features in time. So our director is under huge pressure in making sure everything is shipped in time. I totally understand that, but at the same time, during that time, we had so many online outages. Basically, I was fighting fire like more than 50% of my time. And our on-calls are constantly overwhelmed. 300 tickets every week. It's not sustainable at all. And all the junior engineers are dying. They're basically dealing with online outages all the time. And I was the busiest person because I happen to know most of our stack. So I was constantly put into different meetings. So to summarize, basically our director needs to push us harder while most people on the team is suffering, and I'm on the verge of burnout. I was suffering the most. So the thing I did is to try to persuade our director that the most important thing is to improve the availability rather than shipping new products. Because I understand shipping things faster earlier could like win more customers, but if we keep doing this, it's not sustainable. We might lose engineers. Engineers might get burnt out and leave the team. But it's not an easy job to persuade a director because he gets pressure all the way from CEO level to make sure everything is shipped in time. So it's definitely not an easy job. So first thing I did was to, and then I also know that director doesn't know too much about how our on-call is suffering because the director is not an on-call apparently. So the first thing I did is to do an anonymous poll to gather opinions from lower level engineers, especially the junior engineers, to make sure their voices are heard, to make sure they have a way to complain about their on-call experience. And also, I draw some graph showing the recent on-call tickets every week. So week over week, you can see a sharp increase in the amount of on-call tickets. And also, I explained the churn risk of our engineers, because I know someone is considering leaving because it's just not sustainable, not tolerable. And at the same time, I also understand the director's concern. The director is concerned about losing customers because of the lack of new features. So I evaluated the revenue, the ARR of those customers. And also I make sure I find a way to like reduce the scope of the new features rather than like cutting down the new features. So we don't need to like make a hard choice. We can reduce the scope. We can like spend 20% of the time to get 80% benefit of the new features. So that's what I did. I did lots of homework. I talked to various senior engineers on the team to get them aligned with me first. And then it's basically a team effort to try to persuade the director. And actually it turned out pretty well. The director totally understood our our concern, and in the end, we didn't even need to make a hard choice. In the end, the director helped us persuade the VP that it's basically impossible for the team to prioritize both availability and new features at the same time. So the director used my doc to persuade the VP to give us 3 extra loaner engineers. So we borrowed 3 engineers from other teams to help us in the availability effort while we're making sure the new features are shipped in time. Yeah, so that's how I resolved the conflict with my director and helped my team survive that difficult time period. Okay.
So yeah, thank you for sharing. Would you mind telling us about your biggest learnings from this story?
Yeah, biggest learning. I have so many learnings from this story. So
Then
first,
how about anything you think you can do better?
yes. Okay. Yeah. That's a good question. So, so some major learnings. First of all, some people's directors, senior directors, VPs, higher up people's, they don't know the team suffers when the team is actually suffering. They just don't know it. And it's the job of the tech lead. It's the duty of the tech lead to populate the true status of the team to the directors. It's not the director's job to make sure you all get a great work-life balance. You can argue the contrary, but my point is tech leads in the team is responsible for making sure that the voices are heard at the director level. So that's one of the major learning. Secondly, lots of junior engineers have the problem of imposter syndrome. Even though they're already working 10 hours a day, they never complain. They think they're not doing enough. That's their problem. And it's the duty of the tech lead to protect those junior engineers, to make sure their work is sustainable. So that's second. And third, you don't always need to make a hard choice. Sometimes work together with the one you're having conflict with, and maybe you're going to find a better way out. In this case, we found a better way out. We persuaded our VP to give us some loaner engineers. So that's my 3 major learnings. And that's also how I would do things differently. Yeah. 我觉得可以这样了吧？这样就可以了吧？
好的，特别感谢学。
我要下班了，不好意思，大家再见。